The ship was dying. Captain could feel it in her bones as the starward promise shook and screamed through the alien atmosphere. Red lights flashed everywhere. Alarms filled the air with their terrible song. She held tight to her command chair and watched her crew fighting to save them all. "We have lost main engines," shouted the chief engineer. His hands moved fast over his control panel, but nothing he did seemed to help. "Backup systems are failing too." Looked at the main screen. A planet filled her view. It was green and blue and beautiful, but they were falling toward it much too fast. This was not their destination. They were supposed to reach 442C, where a human colony waited for them. Instead, some space debris had hit their ship and knocked them off course. Now they were crashing toward an unknown world. All crew and passengers spoke into the ship-wide communication system. Her voice was calm even though her heart beat like a drum. "Prepare for emergency landing. Get to your seats. Hold on to something. We are going down." 47 souls were on this ship. Families, scientists, workers, dreamers. All of them had left Earth behind to start new lives among the stars. Now their lives depended on the next few minutes. The ship hit the upper atmosphere and fire surrounded them. Could see nothing but orange and red through the windows. The heat made the air inside feel thick and hard to breathe. Children were crying somewhere in the passenger section. She wanted to tell them everything would be okay, but she did not know if that was true. Never stopped working. He was trying to restart the backup thrusters. If he could get them working for even a few seconds, it might slow them down enough to survive. Sweat ran down his face. His fingers bled from typing so hard on broken controls. "Come on," he whispered to the ship like it was a living thing. "Come on, old girl, give me something." The ship answered. For 3 beautiful seconds the backup thrusters fired. The starward promise slowed down just a little. It was not much, but it was enough. They hit the ground. The noise was louder than anything had ever heard. Metal screamed as it tore apart. Trees exploded into splinters. The ship carved a long path through a jungle that glowed with strange lights, was thrown from her chair and hit the wall. Everything went black. When she opened her eyes, the world was quiet. Smoke filled the air. The ship had stopped moving. She was alive. She called out. Her voice was weak. "Here," came the answer. The engineer was pulling himself up from the floor. His left arm hung at a bad angle, clearly broken, but he was breathing. Stood up slowly. Every part of her body hurt. She looked around the bridge. 2 of her bridge crew were not moving. She checked them and found no heartbeat. She closed their eyes gently and said a quiet prayer. The next hours were chaos. Organized search teams to check on every passenger. The news was both good and bad. 43 people had survived the crash. 4 had died. It was a miracle that so many lived, but every death hurt. The survivors gathered outside the broken ship as the sun set over this new world. The jungle around them was unlike anything they had ever seen. The plants glowed with soft blue and purple lights. Strange sounds came from the darkness between the trees. The air smelled sweet and unfamiliar. A woman named, who had studied plants back on Earth, looked at the glowing forest with wonder in her eyes. "This is amazing," she said. "The bioluminescence is natural. These plants make their own light." A man named, who had worked with animals, was more worried. "Beautiful or not, we do not know what lives here. We need shelter. We need weapons. We need a plan." Agreed. She climbed onto a piece of broken ship hull so everyone could see her. The survivors looked up at her with fear in their eyes. Children held their parents' hands. Old people sat on the ground, too tired to stand. Everyone was waiting for someone to tell them what to do. "I will not lie to you," said. "We are lost. Our ship cannot fly again. We do not know where we are." She paused and looked at each person. "But we are alive. 43 of us survived a crash that should have killed everyone. That means something." She pointed at the ship behind her. "This ship still has supplies. Food for months, tools, medical equipment. a fusion generator that still works, and most importantly, our emergency beacon is sending a signal. The Federation will look for us. They will find us. How long? Someone asked. It was an old woman named. Her voice shook, but her eyes were strong. It could be weeks. It could be months. I do not know. Took a deep breath. But I do know this. We are humans. Our ancestors survived ice ages. They crossed oceans in wooden boats. They built cities in deserts. We do not give up. We do not die easily. She jumped down from the hull and stood among her people. Tomorrow, we start building a camp. We find water. We learn about this world. We survive. And when rescue comes, they will find us not as victims, but as pioneers, as people who looked at an alien world and said, "We can live here." That night, the survivors slept inside the broken ship, huddled together for warmth and comfort. Outside, the glowing jungle watched them with 1,000 strange eyes. Somewhere in the trees, something large moved through the darkness, curious about these new visitors. The humans had arrived on this world by accident, but they would stay by choice. They just did not know it yet. 3 weeks passed since the crash. The survivors had built a real camp now. They used metal from the broken ship to make walls and roofs. They found a stream nearby with clean water. Life was hard, but they were managing. Was the first to notice the creatures watching them. It happened on a cold night. He was sitting near the fusion generator, enjoying its warmth, when he saw movement in the shadows. Small bodies crept closer, their skin glowing with soft blue and pink lights. They looked like a mix between foxes and salamanders, with big, curious eyes and long tails. Most people would have shouted or thrown something to scare them away. Did not. He sat very still and watched them watching him. "Hello there," he whispered softly. The creatures froze. The lights on their skin flickered between colors, almost like they were talking to each other. One of them, braver than the rest, took a small step forward. Reached into his pocket slowly. He always carried some dried fruit from the ship's supplies. He took out a small piece and placed it on the ground in front of him. Then he moved back. The brave creature came closer. It sniffed the fruit. Its skin turned bright green, which guessed meant happiness or excitement. It ate the fruit quickly and looked at him with those big eyes, clearly wanting more. That was how the humans met Over the following days, spent every free moment with these creatures. He learned that they were very smart. They lived in family groups and took care of each other. They communicated by changing the colors of their glowing skin. Green meant happy. Red meant danger. Blue meant calm. Purple meant curiosity. One kept coming back to more than the others. She was smaller than the rest, with beautiful silver and pink lights on her skin. He named her. She started following him everywhere. She slept at the foot of his bed. She warned him when dangerous animals came near by turning bright red and making a sharp chirping sound. "You have made a friend," said one morning, watching Ride on shoulder. "I think she adopted me," laughed. "I am not sure who is the pet here." But they were not the only creatures on this world. They appeared in week 4. Saw them first. She had gone into the forest to collect plant samples when she heard a sound like thunder. She looked up and saw something that made her freeze in terror. 3 massive animals were walking through the trees. They stood taller than a house. They had 6 powerful legs and skin that looked like gray rock. Their heads were small compared to their bodies, with tiny eyes and wide mouths for eating plants. Did not move. One of them looked at her. It made a deep rumbling sound and took a step toward her. She thought she was going to die. Then something strange happened. They stopped. It looked past her at the flowers she had been standing near. She had been picking some purple blossoms for study. The great beast made an angry noise and stomped its foot. Understood. She dropped the flowers and stepped away from them. They calmed down immediately. It walked past her like she was nothing important and began eating the purple flowers. She ran back to camp and told everyone what happened. At first, people were afraid. Some wanted to build bigger walls. Others talked about making weapons. But had an idea. "They are not dangerous," she said. "They are protective. Those purple flowers must be their food. I was standing in their eating area. Once I moved, they did not care about me at all." She was right. Over the next weeks, the colonists mapped where the purple flowers grew. They learned to avoid those areas. They walked through their camp sometimes, but they never hurt anyone. They seemed to view the humans as small, unimportant creatures, not worth any attention. The cook watched the great beasts with a different idea in her mind. Before the crash, she had been a military cook. She knew how to feed armies on the move. She understood practical things. "Look at how strong they are," she said to one day. "They could carry heavy loads. They could help us move supplies. They could pull trees out of the ground if we want to clear land." "You want to tame them?" asked with disbelief. "They are bigger than our shuttle was." "Humans tamed elephants. We tamed horses and oxen. Why not these?" Helped with the project. He discovered that responded to certain sounds. Low, soft whistles made them calm. High, sharp sounds made them nervous. He made simple flutes from metal tubes and began experimenting. It took time, many days of patience and careful work, but slowly one began to trust them. It was a young one, smaller than the adults, named him, which meant rock. The first time climbed onto his back and rode him across the valley, the whole camp cheered. It was a moment of triumph. They were not just surviving anymore. They were adapting. They were making this alien world their home. By month 2, 3 had become regular helpers at the camp. They carried water from distant springs. They moved heavy pieces of the crashed ship. They let children pet their rocky skin. The survivors had arrived on this world with nothing but what they could save from a broken ship. Now they had allies, friends, to warn them of danger, to help them build. But the greatest test was still coming. In the dark places of the forest, other eyes were watching. Eyes that belonged to creatures far more intelligent than anyone had imagined. Creatures that would first try to destroy the humans and then become their most valuable partners. The attack came without warning on a night when both moons were dark. Was sleeping in her shelter when screaming woke her. She grabbed her emergency light and ran outside. What she saw made her blood turn cold. Creatures were dropping from the trees. They had 8 legs like spiders and bodies as big as large dogs. Their skin was black as night. They had many eyes that reflected light like terrible jewels, and they were fast, so terribly fast. One of them grabbed a man named Minyu and wrapped him in some kind of silk before anyone could react. The silk came from their bodies, shooting out in sticky ropes that could trap a person in seconds. Another creature caught a woman named the same way. "Fight them off," shouted. People grabbed anything they could use as weapons, sticks, metal poles, rocks. The battle was chaos. Then, as quickly as they came, the creatures were gone. They disappeared into the darkness, leaving the camp in ruins. 2 people were trapped in silk. Several others had cuts and bruises. Food supplies had been taken. The whole colony was shaking with fear. "What were those things?" someone asked. Had managed to see them clearly during the attack. His face was pale. "They are hunters, pack hunters, intelligent ones. The way they moved, the way they worked together. This was planned." The survivors spent the rest of the night freeing Minyu and from the silk. It was incredibly strong. They needed cutting tools to break through it, but both people were unharmed, scared but without any injuries. Found that strange. Why did they not hurt them? She wondered out loud. They could have killed everyone. They were fast enough, strong enough, but they only wrapped 2 people in silk and took our food. A young woman named was listening. She had studied alien languages back on Earth, hopping to one-day talk to beings from other worlds. She had been quiet since the crash, unsure how to help, but now she had an idea forming in her mind. "May I see the silk?" she asked. They gave her some pieces that had been cut away. She studied them carefully. The material was amazing. Thin as paper but stronger than steel. It kept heat inside when wrapped around something. Water could not pass through it. "This is not just a weapon," said. "This is a tool. These creatures make this on purpose. They use it for many things." She looked at the forest with new understanding. "I do not think they wanted to eat us. I think they wanted our food." "What difference does it make?" someone asked angrily. "They attacked us. We need to kill them before they come back." Shook her head. "Think about it. They could have killed Minu and easily. Instead, they wrapped them up and left them alive. They could have attacked our children, but they did not go near them. They are not monsters. They are desperate." Over the next days, watched the forest. She saw the creatures moving in the high branches. She started calling them because they wove their silk at night. She noticed patterns in how they moved. The way they used lights on their bodies to signal each other, similar to how used colors. She began making her own lights using parts from the ship. She flashed signals at them, copying the patterns she had seen them use. At first, nothing happened. They ignored her or ran away. Then on the 12th day, one answered. It sat in a tree at the edge of camp and flashed its body lights at her. The pattern meant something like question or curiosity. Flashed back a pattern she hoped meant peace or no danger. They came closer. Other colonists reached for weapons but told them to stop. "Let her try," the captain said. Held out a piece of dried food. They looked at it with its many eyes. Then it reached out with one leg and took it. It ate quickly, like an animal that had not eaten in a long time. "They are starving," realized. "Our ship crashed in their territory. We have been eating the same fruits and plants they need. We took their food without knowing it." Understanding changed everything. Worked day and night to learn the language of lights. It was complex and beautiful. They had words for family, for love, for loss. They were not animals at all. They were people. Strange, many-legged people, but people. She proposed a trade. The humans had technology to process food waste into something edible. They had silk that was more valuable than gold. What if they exchanged? The first official trade happened on day 93. A group came to a spot at the edge of camp that had marked with lights. They brought bundles of silk. The humans brought containers of processed food. No one attacked. No one ran. Two species looked at each other across the gap between their worlds and chose to be partners instead of enemies. Soon, they brought more than just silk. They brought plants that could heal sickness. They shared knowledge about which water was safe to drink. They began warning the humans about storms before they came, reading signs in the sky that humans could not see. Stood with one evening, watching laugh with a group of. They were playing some kind of game together, flashing lights back and forth in complicated patterns. "I was ready to kill them all," admitted quietly. "I thought they were monsters." Nodded. "Fear makes us see monsters everywhere, but look at what patience and curiosity gave us instead," she smiled. "3 species now. We did not conquer this world, we made friends with it." The shadows that had once terrified them now protected them. The silk that had trapped their people now warmed them. The creatures they had called monsters now sat beside them as equals. This is what humans did. They did not just survive, they connected. They built bridges across impossible gaps. They turned enemies into family. But the greatest symbol of their new life was still to come. It would be born from homesickness and creativity, from the simple human need to share food and company. It would become famous across the galaxy. It would be a cafe. Missed coffee. It was a small thing, a silly thing. The colony had survived attacks and storms and fear. They had made friends with 3 alien species. They had built homes from the wreck of their ship. But every morning woke up wanting a cup of coffee, and every morning she was disappointed. She started experimenting with local plants. She roasted seeds. She boiled roots. She tried dozens of combinations. Most tasted terrible. Some made her sick, but she did not give up. On day 123 she found it. A small purple fruit that grew in the shade of larger trees. When she dried it, roasted it, and made it into a hot drink, it tasted wonderful. Not exactly like coffee, but close enough. It was warm and comforting and made people smile. She shared it with the other colonists. Everyone loved it. For a few minutes while drinking this warm purple drink, they could close their eyes and pretend they were back home on Earth, sitting in a coffee shop, not worrying about alien creatures or broken ships. That was when the idea came to her. "We need a cafe," she told Captain. Thought she was joking. "A cafe, we are crash survivors on an alien planet." "Exactly," said. "We are survivors. We have been surviving for 4 months, but surviving is not living. People need more than food and shelter. They need normal things, happy things, a place to sit with friends, a place to relax, a place that feels like home." Looked at her cook for a long moment, then she smiled. "Tell me what you need." The whole colony helped build the cafe. They used the observation deck of the crashed ship. It was a large round room with big windows that looked out at the glowing forest. The damage from the crash was repaired with metal and wood. Tables were made from polished ship parts. Chairs were carved from local trees. Asked for help. They brought beautiful silk in different colors. The silk became tablecloths and cushions and curtains. They were proud of their work. They visited often to look at how their silk decorated the room. Brought thee into the project. The small glowing creatures loved warmth and company. He trained some of them to sit on special platforms near the tables. Their soft glow provided light. Their warm bodies heated plates of food. Guests could pet them while enjoying their drinks. Even the helped needed water from a spring 3 kilometers away. She asked the young that trusted them most to carry large containers there and back. He seemed to enjoy having a job. Every morning he walked to the spring and returned with enough water for the whole colony. The cafe opened on day 153. Called it the crater because their ship had made a crater when it crashed. It was a dark joke, but everyone laughed. Laughter was precious now. That first night was magic. Sat at a corner table watching her people. A named slept in her lap, her skin glowing gentle pink. Through the window she could see 2 grazing peacefully in the moonlight. I had woven a beautiful pattern in a nearby tree. Something said was art, not a web for catching food. Sat across from her. His broken arm had healed badly. He had built himself a new arm from ship parts. It was ugly and made strange sounds, but it worked. He held his cup of purple drink with metal fingers and real fingers together. "Remember the first day?" he asked. "We thought we were all going to die." "I remember," said. "Now look at us." He waved his mechanical hand at the room full of happy people. "We have a cafe, an actual cafe, with tablecloths and everything." A couple walked in holding hands. Their names were End. They had fallen in love during the hard months after the crash. Working together, helping each other, they had found something beautiful in all the disaster. "We want to get married," told shyly. "We want to have the ceremony here, in the cafe." Felt tears in her eyes. "It would be my honor." The wedding happened 1 week later. The whole colony attended, wore little flower decorations and carried rings in their mouths. Stood outside the window, covered in flower chains, like a living mountain decorated for celebration. Flashed patterns of color that translated as happiness and new beginning. Grandmother, the oldest survivor, performed the ceremony. She had found a strange friendship with a she called Deri. The creature sat beside her while she spoke about love and hope and new chapters. After that day, the cafe became the heart of the colony. All important decisions were made there over warm drinks. Arguments were solved. Friendships were strengthened. Children played with pups under the tables while adults talked about the future. Added new items to her menu. She made sweet cakes from local fruits. She created a cold drink for hot days. She even learned to make something that tasted almost like chocolate using a root that the showed her. The colonists began to call themselves crater people with pride. They were not just survivors waiting for rescue anymore. They were a community, a family. They had built something new and wonderful from the ashes of their crashed ship. On quiet evenings, some stood outside the cafe and looked at the stars. Somewhere up there, rescue ships were surely searching for them. The Federation would not forget 47 missing colonists. Help would come eventually. But as she watched it chase its own tail while a child laughed, as she heard music playing inside the cafe, as she smelled cooking filling the air, she found herself asking a strange question. When rescue came, would she want to leave? This world had almost killed them. It had challenged them in ways she never imagined, but it had also given them gifts beyond measure, friendship with beings from another world, a second chance, a home. Whatever happened next knew one thing for certain. The humans had not just survived on this alien world. They had thrived. They had built something beautiful. And they had really, really good coffee. The rescue ship appeared on day 186. A young man named saw it first. He was riding aback from the water spring when he noticed a bright light falling from the sky. But this light was controlled. It moved with purpose. It was not crashing. It was landing. "Ship," he shouted, jumping off and running toward the colony. "A ship is coming." The news spread through the camp like fire. People ran outside and looked up. A large vessel was descending through the clouds, its engines glowing blue against the morning sky. On its side, the symbol of the Federation shone bright and clear. They had been found. Captain Wren of the rescue ship Valiant Dawn expected to find desperate survivors. She had read the reports. A colonial transport lost for 6 months. 47 souls crashed on an uncharted world. She prepared her team for the worst. Medical supplies, emergency food, body bags just in case. The ship landed 1 kilometer from where the distress beacon was coming from. Wren led her team through the forest, weapons ready, prepared for anything. She was not prepared for what she found. First there was a path, a real path cleared through the jungle and lined with glowing flowers. Then there was a sign made of polished metal. It read, "Welcome to Crater Colony. The cafe is open." "What the hell?" whispered her second in command. They followed the path and found something impossible. A small village stood where a crashed ship had fallen. Buildings had been made from metal and wood. Gardens grew in neat rows. A large creature with 6 legs and rocky skin walked past them, carrying water containers on its back. 2 children were riding on its shoulders, laughing. A small glowing animal sat on the creature's head like a guardian, watching the rescue team with intelligent eyes. Wren stopped walking. She stared, her mouth hung open. Then she saw the cafe. It was beautiful. Windows shone with warm light. Colorful curtains made of some kind of silk danced in the wind. People were sitting inside at tables, drinking from cups and talking like nothing was wrong. Like they were not lost in space. Like they were just having a normal morning in a normal coffee shop. Captain walked out to meet them. She wore simple clothes made from ship fabric and something that looked like spider silk. A small glowing creature sat on her shoulder, watching the newcomers with purple-pink lights playing across its skin. "Welcome to Haven," said with a warm smile. "You must be tired from your journey. Would you like something to drink?" Wren did not know what to say. She had rescued many lost colonists in her career. She had seen people crying with joy. She had seen people too weak to stand. She had never seen someone offer her coffee. How?" Wren tried to form words. "It is a long story," said kindly. "Come inside, our cook makes excellent drinks, and I promise the do not bite." The rescue team spent the next 3 days in Crater Colony, and every day brought new surprises. They met who showed them how could understand human speech and respond with color patterns. They met who had documented over 200 new plant species. They met whose mechanical arm was better than most Federation medical prosthetics. They met who actually spoke to the Ren watched in amazement as the young woman had a full conversation with a creature that looked like something from a nightmare. The brought gifts of silk as a welcome for the newcomers. It even made a pattern of lights that translated as friends of friends are welcome. They met grandmother, who refused to discuss leaving because her companion Dari would miss her too much. And they met, who fed them the best food they had tasted in years. The purple drink really did taste like coffee. The cakes were perfect. The meal she served on plates warmed by sleeping was like nothing Ren had ever experienced. "I need to file a report," Ren told on the second day. "I do not know how to explain any of this." Laughed, "Tell them the truth. Tell them that humans crashed on an alien world and did what humans always do. We adapted, we made friends, we built a home." The evacuation was supposed to be simple. Load survivors onto the rescue ship, take them to safety. Mission complete. It did not happen that way. 32 colonists chose to stay on Haven. They did not want to leave their new home. They did not want to leave their companions or their friends or their trading partners. Only 11 people boarded the Valiant Dawn. Most of them had family waiting for them back in the Federation. They hugged their friends goodbye with tears in their eyes. Stayed, of course she stayed. This was her colony now, her responsibility, her home. "Will you file for official colony status?" Ren asked before leaving. "Already done," smiled. "We sent the paperwork through your ship's communication system yesterday. Haven Colony. Population, 32 humans, approximately 57 and over 100. Ren shook her head in wonder. "You listed the aliens as population." "They are our neighbors, our friends, our partners. Why would we not count them?" The rescue ship lifted off and disappeared into the sky. The colonists watched it go, then returned to their daily lives. There was work to do, gardens to tend, trades to make with to feed, a cafe to run. 1 week later, a message came from the Federation. Haven Colony was officially recognized. Supply ships would come twice a year. Scientists wanted to visit and study the peaceful relationships between humans and aliens. The story of Crater Colony was spreading across human space, inspiring people everywhere. Read the news in her favorite seat at the cafe. The slept in her lap. Through the window, she could see grazing in the morning mist while wove beautiful patterns in the trees. Captain Wren's official report had become famous. The last line was quoted everywhere. "We arrived expecting to rescue survivors from a hostile world. Instead, we found humans who had domesticated the local fauna, established a thriving settlement, and opened a cafe. Recommend someone research how humans accomplish these things because the rest of the Federation would like to know." Brought a fresh cup of her purple drink. "You look thoughtful." "I am thinking about how strange life is," said. "We crashed here by accident. We thought we were cursed, but maybe we were lucky. Maybe this is exactly where we were supposed to be." Smiled and looked around her cafe, at the silk tablecloths and the glowing and the happy people enjoying their morning. "Maybe you are right." Outside, a young made a happy sound as children decorated its legs with flower chains. A sat peacefully on a tree branch, trading light patterns with. A chased a butterfly through the garden. The humans of Haven Colony had not conquered this world. They had not fought it. They had done something much more human. They had made it their home. They had found friendship in the strangest places. They had built community from disaster. And they had really, really good coffee. The end.